Okay, it's Wednesday, March 27th, it's 4:32, and we're gonna start, it's a special select board meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the main purpose for this is we wanted to amend the personnel policy with regard to on-call employees before the beginning of next quarter, and that's why we're meeting early, so.
So do you want to go right into that?
Yeah, unless there's something else you want to start
Nope.
with.
So, okay, let's see, I hope I have enough for everybody. Okay, so that, well, hang on. I have one more. Hang on. Hang on, Jeff, I know I have one more. Here we go. There you go. And actually, this, Michelle, I'm gonna give you this one.
Okay.
Because this is the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
And some of it's we're not changing, like the hourly employee stuff. So,
Yeah, this was section E of the
yeah,
personnel policy.
correct. Types under, so this is the personnel policy. The last time it was amended was February 20th, 2019. No changes except for moving on to types of appointments. So that's where I picked it up. And types of appointment, actually, I wrote types of employment. It's supposed to be appointments, Michelle. Okay, we're gonna need to, I can send, I don't know whether it will help to send the Word document or what.
Probably, then we can adjust it
Okay.
from there.
Let me, what did I do with my pen? Okay, I wrote the wrong word. So it's types of appointments instead of employment. So that's appointments. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so on call. Do you want me to read it, or is
That'd be
everybody
great.
in the zone? Oh, for the table.
Yep.
So this is type 8, section 8 of the personnel policy, 8 types of appointments. E, on-call. On-call denotes an employee who is subject to being called in arbitrarily and/or on short notice, such as a firefighter. The on-call employee is one that electively responds to work needs regardless of time or day of the week. He/she shall be paid a stipend on a per-call basis as set by the Board of Selectmen. On-call employees are not entitled to benefits as outlined in this policy. They are, however, subject to the personnel policy rules and regulations. So, that's the change for the on-call description. It did have on-call before, and that's, we just changed the description of what in fact is on-call. So, do we want to work on that? Yeah.
The genesis for this was direction that we got from the attorney. Because previously, we had, and it was our policy, we did that last amendment.
Right.
It was an hourly rate, and that's where she said we basically,
We're going wrong.
yes,
Right.
exactly, so.
And said that it needed to be changed to a per-call
Yeah,
basis.
she said, I would recommend that payments be made on a flat per-call basis rather than an hourly basis. And there's Department of Labor issues that you avoid by doing it this way, and last year's labor budget kind of got way beyond what anybody thought it was gonna be, so
Right.
this should fix all that.
Okay. So, do we want to, any discussion?
Any questions on that first part?
Okay. So moving on, the next thing would be number 9, promotions, nothing changed there. So number 10, compensation. So this is, before it was just a several paragraphs for compensation, and it was sort of all over the map as far as hourly and or contractual. So I broke it out. So compensation, the first thing is all employees. All compensation is subject to annual budget approval. All employees of the town shall be compensated based upon their range of duties, responsibilities, and level of work performed as established by the town manager. So A, subset A, is the fire department. Under that little a, fire chief, stipend as set by the Board of Selectmen paid biannually, June 30th and December 31st. Officers, so the eligibility and stipend as set by the Board of Selectmen paid biannually, again, June 30th through and December 31st. Firefighters, a call attendance / participation rate of greater than 25% of calls is required to earn compensation. Under that, a stipend is calculated on a per-call attendance formula as set by the Board of Selectmen, calculated and paid biannually, June 30th and December 31st. Mandatory training may be compensated per training at the current stipend rate based on greater than 25% call participation / attendance. And then on from there, just so you know, Michelle, hourly, I wrote it out. But it was just organizing all of these different paragraphs. There's no changes.
Okay.
I just organized it under hourly and under contractual.
Okay.
So because this is a personnel policy, it doesn't go into the formula or anything like that as far as what we had worked on, right, Mike? This is just the overview, general.
Yeah, the amounts are set annually,
Correct, okay,
and then they have to follow the formula.
right,
So if your per call amount could be an amount this year that's different than next year.
yes.
But you wouldn't change the policy.
Right, and that's why we,
Yeah.
that's why we structured it that way, because that way the policy doesn't have to be
It
changed.
endures.
Right, it
Yeah,
endures.
yeah.
It, and so that's what we've tried to do. Actually, the last time we changed this policy, I think it was something that was made it so that it lived on, and then each year rates could be set. So,
The only thing
yeah. up to-
the stipends for the officers, the chief and officer, it doesn't identify that that's their compensation,
Okay, aha.
and it probably should.
Okay, so what you're saying, Mike, is that there is no on-call above and beyond
Correct.
compensation?
Correct. Whatever the stipend is that everybody agrees to, that's what it should be. If it's, some towns it's 1,000, some towns it's 7,000. So
Right.
it's whatever you,
Why wouldn't you do it the other way?
What's that now?
So what I'm thinking,
Yeah, absolutely.
so my thought process is,
Oh, you said
and this
that.
is, dump this back onto Matt. Matt provides the list of officers and what duties he's assigning to each officer. And then give the stipend for those duties. But then they would still, and it's minimal, it's not a huge amount of money, no different than it is now, but I'm assuming, is that how you're doing it now, is everybody's supposed to, you've got something that they're supposed to do?
Yeah, the lieutenants take care of the air packs, the captains take care of the trucks, assistant chief takes care of personnel issues, and so on and so forth. But yeah, everybody has their own job, per se.
And Matt, right now, I know we do know what those numbers are, but what are they right now? Do you know?
The stipends?
Yes.
Michelle had a list, I didn't bring it with me.
I didn't bring it with me either.
Okay.
I had one on my
I-
desk.
But I think they're minimal.
Okay,
I mean,
that's okay.
do you have a rough idea? I mean,
I think the chief stipend was like 1,300 a year, and then assistant chiefs, I think if I recall, were 600, or
That sounds
deputy
right.
chief and assistant chief was 600, captains were like 3, and then lieutenants were 150, I think. It slowly, progressively went down. I don't remember the exact. but
Honestly, I
think
just went
that's-
over all the hours today, and they're really minor, they're not a lot at all.
So that's a yearly stipend. And what you're saying, Dale, is get their yearly stipend and then get a per call on
Yeah.
top of that.
right, so my thought is once you understand, or we all understand what his expectation is,
Right.
then we can kinda understand a timeline of what that means. You know, I mean, to do the packs every month, that takes some time. You know, so you're really, yeah, you're giving it a stipend because of the officer, but really you're paying that stipend for those tasks that those guys are doing.
But the clunky part is, you don't wanna have to readdress this policy every time you change a stipend. So stipends can still be set on an annual basis.
Yep.
Okay,
Well, that's what I'm saying, once you understand, and honestly, once he writes this out, these are the officers, if we can keep it brief, it ought to be part of the personnel policy.
You mean listing the
Yeah.
office?
oh yeah, who gets,
Oh.
right, it should be set, it should be carved in stone who gets one,
Right.
or how far down rank you go.
Right, now whether or not you wanna create an SOP for each officer, you keep that somewhere else other than here, but
Right.
honestly, it ought to be, it's part of the duties of those jobs.
So, if if the stipend is of a size that you would say, in addition to that, they should get paid per call, that's one way to approach it.
Correct.
Correct.
If the stipend is
Larger,
$3,000, you might say, well, that's the only compensation you're gonna get. So you gotta decide which way you wanna go with this.
100%.
Okay.
I think it's cleaner to do it the other way, but that's my opinion.
You meaning, everybody gets paid per calls, keep the stipends
Separate.
humble?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem, yep.
It's not as big of a stipend, but they're gonna get it on the call volume, you know, and the participation.
Sure. What about the participation threshold? You probably, I'm guessing every one of your officers participates at greater than 25%.
All my officers are the ones that are probably over 75%.
Sure, so they're gonna,
They're gonna
Okay.
cap it.
right,
okay,
yeah.
okay, so it's just, like you said, it's a way of looking at it. just-
Correct.
Yeah. In
It's
the-
more of showing, to me, it's more of showing, I don't know. I just don't know how you come up with a big enough number. If you keep them separate at the end of the year, it's cleaner, I think.
So if he has a captain, and the captain's responsible for checking the trucks, so after a fire scene, the captain would come in, check trucks all over, make sure they're all ready to go again, say he's getting a $200 stipend. Well, that's his stipend, he might have to come in here 20 times a year, so he's gonna get $200 for that.
For doing that.
Right,
And then-
on top of his call
Then
pay.
he's gonna get his call pay.
Yep.
Or she's gonna get a call pay.
Sure.
Yep,
Outside of that. And when I was looking at some of these numbers, I mean, you can make $1,700 on call pay.
correct.
Yeah, exactly.
And it
Using
really,
the system.
Matt's number of 15,000, it looks like a very reasonable number. It's looked like plenty in the bank, maybe outside of stipends. I mean, I don't know
Right,
what these stipends are gonna amount to, but.
I don't think they're that big now, you don't have that many, and I think, you know, do you need all the officers we've always had for years? It's more about what duties do you have and how do you wanna break them up so you know you get them done.
Well, that's the biggest thing is what we have right now works to get everything done because, you know, like I've got one guy that's gone half the year, so the other officer takes care of, you know, while he's not here type of thing.
But then again, you're paying that officer full stipend, he's here
Well,
for the year.
yeah,
Well,
but
but-
he's not currently, but he was.
So then the question is, would then that biannual, meaning, June and December, kick in? So that officer really only would get half that stipend?
Correct.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
That makes sense,
Yeah,
and
that
then
makes
somebody else, you could assign
Cause you could
someone
have
else.
seasonal
Yeah,
people.
Yeah, if you have to assign it to somebody else, you might have to switch those duties to somebody else, they ought to be compensated.
right,
Yep.
right, and so that works
Yep.
nicely, because then, even the chief's stipend would be paid June and December.
Yep.
And so, if our chief changes or whatever it may be, then everybody's getting paid.
Yeah, you haven't spent your whole budget in
Right.
January.
But I think the chief has to have some say in here, because if he has an officer that's supposed to be doing a specific duty, and they're not doing the duty, then they don't deserve the whole stipend.
Right,
That would be.
But there you go, now you're back with personnel, that's where
Right.
you really he needs to
Right.
work with you, so you can help
Yep.
get that fixed.
Correct.
Okay, so by chance, I happen to bring the Board of Labor Standards report with me. The chief gets 1,300,
okay.
the secretary gets 500. Matt, what is Orman's office, what is he in the officers?
He's kept.
Okay, so captains get 200,
Okay.
and who's?
Was that last year's though?
Well, I'm going with 23s.
Yeah, cause he was a lieutenant last year, captain this year, so that would be last year's, so he would have been a
So he would-
lieutenant
Okay,
then,
so, and then Travis, what was he?
captain.
Okay, so, and he ended up with $300.
Yeah, so it was 3 for captains, 2 for lieutenants.
2 captains, 2 lieutenants.
Assistant chief,
Yeah, assistant chief, what,
Give
what
me a name.
was,
Chad.
well, I was there half the year,
Oh, that's
Chad
true.
was there the other half.
Okay, so Chad.
Did it get split up, do we know?
I
or-
believe
Just
we-
prorate it.
We
That's how we
split
used to do it.
June first, so it should have got separated half and half, yeah.
Oops, hold on.
I
So
think,
that was like 700.
was it 7? I was
Yeah.
thinking 6, but,
It's 175 a quarter, well, and it's hard to figure that out because you
What's the
guys
chief?
crisscrossed.
13.
Okay, so 650, something like that makes sense, right? Pretty close to half,
I mean,
right?
you think these are, the way we're looking at this, do you think those are where they should be?
I mean, I think it's acceptable. I mean, I don't see as it needs to go up, really. I mean, most of the duties that they're doing, like you said, over and above are, that's a fair number for what they're doing, you know, they are adding an extra 20, 30 minutes on, you know, every time that we're on a call, because they're coming back and going over, make sure everything's in service and ready to go, but it's not, you know, some places, like you said, some places are $6,000 a year, and that's just not,
Sure.
it's not needed. I think they're acceptable if we can hit right in that area
Good.
again.
Yep. My other question, secretary.
Yeah.
So the one thing that we've all learned between employee situations and everything else, and we, few town managers through this, we would really like to have more of all of our staff right at town office.
Yeah.
So that way there, all employee records are over there, even your training records are over there, they're all secured.
Yeah, they are now, I think, right?
I
I brought all those
think
to
you
you.
brought Sam a big file folder, and
Yeah.
she copied everybody, and those are
Yeah.
behind me.
We've been working on transferring
Okay.
most everything over there, so that she
My
has
question for
copies.
you is, the more we're doing that, the less of a role as far as paperwork we're doing here, what's really gonna be left for a secretary? Is that one that you really need here? and
It's-
moving it?
I mean, right now, what she does is she takes minutes, during our meetings and then does the call breakdown, so the hours, but that's really all that she's,
Yeah, she
responsible for
brings
right
me
now.
quite a packet. She gives me like all the run sheets, and then she has a spreadsheet she's made listing each fireman
Yep.
with the hours.
the hours that they
For the
worked
month.
and,
Yep.
so she does come in and break all that down.
I think she said it takes her about 2 hours roughly
Yeah,
to
typically
pull that all
she-
together.
She's got the program on that computer and she sits down and does it, so.
And when it becomes per call, I mean, I guess it's just, you
No
know.
changes,
Right,
cause you sign in, you're in, there isn't a worry about it.
Hours, there's-
Yeah, it's a lot cleaner, it's a lot simpler,
It's a lot simpler.
yeah,
right, right.
yep.
Well, the reason why it's, well, twofold, if we're moving more to the town office, but when I look at the number, the secretary makes more than your lieutenants do. So that's why I was,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
if we keep taking away, you,
Right.
I'm not saying we get rid of the secretary today, that's not what I'm saying.
right.
I just something to think about, you know, what do we do in the future, because.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long it's been that particular way. It was before I came back to Sangerville, so. Guilford, we didn't have anybody paid as a secretary over there, right?
Just Peter
Oh, yeah, Peter.
took the minutes, and that's about all we did was minutes, and you turn in fire time. And
Yep.
he did the fire time and the calls. And I suggest changing secretary to clerical person,
Just the word, you mean?
the word.
The word, the title.
Yeah.
Okay, clerical person.
It does seem like, particularly if it's just gonna be, now it's not hour, now we don't have to keep track of hours. Doesn't matter that, you know, they were out for 3 hours and this guy was 2 hours, and that guy, it's per call. So it's gonna be a
Correct.
lot simpler.
Simple.
Yeah, really, I mean,
Just
maybe it should be more like what the lieutenant's getting paid. But,
Well, honestly, I would think we ought to look at exactly, you might wanna come up with a better sheet, because you almost just, if you have your dates and your calls, it's gonna be a check mark.
yeah,
Yep, he gets paid, he gets paid, he gets paid, it's not
Yeah.
gonna be.
and if you don't get the 25%, maybe next half of the year you get there.
Right,
Try it again.
but that, at the end of the day, we need to manage through the town office.
Correct.
anyway.
Correct.
And as far as minutes, you don't record your meetings?
No,
You don't record?
no, we haven't gotten out of the Stone Age yet.
Well, no, it does make it easier to do the minutes, because that person doesn't necessarily need to come to the meeting.
Right.
They can just sit and transcribe the minutes.
And we do have an extra recorder at the office, if that's something that you want to move forward
Right.
on.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, it would be less than the stipend if you bought a new one.
So it just, I don't know, because then it could be done.
And they're all digital files now, so it's very easy to store them.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, does it need to be transcribed to written word?
There's plenty of programs that will do it.
Yeah, that's right.
But at the end of the day, you could create right on the fire department's tab on the website, you could just store them all there, same way we do with all of ours.
Yep.
Archive them there.
Yep.
It's just a little, when you
Oh,
have
yeah.
recorded meetings that are being posted,
You need a-
available to the public, it's a whole different
Yeah, that's true.
decorum.
Yeah, that's true. You can't be talking about,
Anything that you're not supposed to be.
yeah, I mean, it does keep it,
Yeah.
it keeps it more professional, that is for sure. But you're right about programs that will transcribe right from a recording.
Yeah, and obviously, I don't have any appreciation for the mechanics of how often you need to refer to those minutes. I don't know how often that happens.
It really doesn't. It's always just been something that
just
somebody's always
tradition.
just jotted it down, so we
Yeah.
have it, but I
Yeah.
mean, other than, I'll look back and see who was nominated for what positions and stuff like that's all. we
Right,
use it
right,
for.
yeah, that type of thing.
Yeah, we don't use it for.
So you really don't need it?
Well, we have the disposition of records at the office, which tells you how long you need to keep that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So
Okay.
maybe I can photocopy that and help you as far as your
Well,
record keeping on this
But
side.
do we really need the minutes for the fire department?
Well, that's
We
what
have
I'm
to keep the
wondering.
minutes of the board, so, and they're.
But he's a town
offices.
employee,
Yeah,
it's just the town,
Your planning board's different in that, they're voting,
Right.
the fire department's overseen by the town manager.
Oh,
Right,
that's
you
true
can't-
too,
you
yeah.
can't make any decisions in a meeting that's gonna spend money or, everything has to be run through the town
True,
manager.
town manager.
all it is
Yep.
just getting everybody up to speed on things that are going on, what needs to be done differently, all that, it's really not.
Right. I mean, if you use them, it's a tool, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But if it's, we're doing a lot of things different at work right now, and I'm finding, I tell everybody, if you send a report every day and you don't know who uses it, just stop sending it.
Yeah, yeah,
And if nobody makes,
You don't get a reply in a week.
right, you didn't need that
was
report.
yeah, you don't need to do that anymore.
Right, because so many people do so many things just because it's what we've always done.
Yeah, yeah, yep, that's so true.
Matt, how many lieutenants are there?
2,
Okay, and captains?
same.
Okay, and one assistant chief?
One assistant, one deputy.
Oh, okay.
Some people just do first and second assistant, but
Do you know what who would be that role for the number?
for a deputy would be Jeff Willie.
And do we know what that, oh, you're looking that up. I'm just trying to get a total number on stipends.
And, Matt, how often do you have a meeting, once a month?
Yes, yeah, once a month.
So that once a month meeting would be a call?
No.
No, call's a call.
Okay.
700 fingers, 700.
Okay.
What was that calculation?
Deputies first, second.
Oh, oh,
Well, it's gonna be approximate.
Are the duties the same between assistant and deputy?
Yeah,
I'm putting you on the spot.
yeah, I mean, overall,
Okay.
yes,
Alright.
other than like on-call type of deal. But duties in the station are, I don't know why, some people do first and second assistant, some people do word it differently.
It's less than that, but that's plenty.
okay. And the reason you have two and two captains, lieutenants, is just for coverage?
Yeah, more or less, coverage for on-calls, coverage for, like if I'm not here, or, you know, whoever's not here, you've got somebody that's at that level that can
I
take
see.
over. So if
Okay.
the deputy chief isn't here and I'm not here, then the assistant chief will be here. If you just have the deputy and the fire, and the chief, and neither of us are here, then you're dropping down another tier
I
to
gotcha.
possibly a lieutenant or a captain.
I see.
To possibly run the fire scene. And then when it comes to the work here, obviously, if we get back and everybody's cleaned up their air packs, put them back, and the lieutenants are the ones that sign off saying it's in service, it's clean, it's good to go. If one of them isn't here, then the other one takes
Yeah,
over.
that makes sense, that
So-
makes sense.
I think
Just
years ago,
redundancy.
the system was set up that way first and second, up through was a set of building blocks.
Mm-hmm,
You build, bring in the first,
mm-hmm,
change the second, then the second moves up to first, and that's how you build your team.
Yep,
To eventually
yep.
get to captain or where, you know, as high as you really wanna go.
yeah,
Today, we, you know, with the experience level and what we have participation, we take what we can get, you know.
right, I understand, yep. So you did a calculation, a rough calculation. it's
Yeah,
roughly-
it looks like 3,800 is a little bit heavy, so that's, if you figure $4,000 worth of stipends, you're more than enough. And we actually don't even need to have the amount of money on this document. We just wanna list the positions, you know, two lieutenants, two captains,
Yep.
and then the board sets the stipend every year.
Right,
So the money kinda keeps separate.
so you think the role should be in here as well,
I don't care if it's, well, I mean, it's gotta be somewhere, because these
Right,
are
right.
specific tasks
right,
that you're expecting these roles to perform to get that.
right,
It's kinda
okay,
like your job description. you
right.
know?
Right.
So do we want that, okay, so you
Doesn't-
will supply that to Michelle, and Michelle, you'll plug that all into.
Yep, I can add it to.
And some town budgets, they list every single individual firefighter that's getting a stipend and what they actually get. So, I mean, it's that detailed, so, I'm not proposing that, it just, that's
Right,
how some of them do it. So, yeah, the variable is the, per call rate, and the stipend rate, which we pretty much nailed that
Nailed down.
down.
Yeah, I
So,
don't see any issue to really change the stipends that much. I mean, I think they're fairly reasonable right now.
however, so the chief gets just a stipend, not any.
well, I guess
per
it
call.
depends on
Do
how
you
we're
wanna
gonna
do-
treat
and then
this.
call base?
I think you should. I think it all, I would look at the stipends completely separate. And then it's all about participation, you know, I mean, fortunate right now, we got Matt, he's here all the time. You could run into a situation where you do have a chief that can't participate for whatever set reason. He still has a lot of responsibility to hold the hat as a chief and what he's signing off on. So he would get, you know, under that type of role, we wouldn't get the call end of it, but he would get the stipend to cover that.
Yeah, that's one thing is like you're saying with the stipend and the call, you know, paid per call, the stipend isn't really covering, in my eyes, it isn't really covering what's done on call. It's covering more what you're doing beyond
Yes.
back here.
Well, that's,
Equipment.
that's how I agree with it,
Right.
but the same thing, that's the way it's paid out currently.
Right.
What we could do, and I don't know how to do it, that's why I wanna do it this way, we could try to calculate that, what is the good number, this, the duties of the department of being a chief, plus the call volume, and I think gets clunky.
So how many calls were there this year, this past 2023?
159.
159, okay. So that would have been an extra $1,600 in the neighborhood.
Well, basically, you're taking that $15,000 budget and you're going to have to turn it into closer to 20.
Right, okay.
They have run about 1,800 hours for the calls that they've done.
Right, so, but that's hours, so it's, you
Right.
can't even,
That's not gonna be in the
That's-
formula.
wait, tell me again the number of calls, I'm sorry.
158?
159.
Okay, so let's just say
160.
160, yeah.
That's why when I was speaking before about the stipend program, like this, it's really simple to do a set dollar amount per call. But you don't control, if call volume continues to go up, you don't stop that. That's why like the other program, it might have been a little bit more money at, you know, straight up, but no matter how many calls you get, you're never gonna go over that, say $15,000 number. You could have 400 calls and it would never go above that because
Because
it would
it
be,
capped it,
it would be
right,
a
per
month.
month.
It would be a monthly, yeah.
I don't disagree with you, the problem I have with that, it has nothing to do with that concept. It's the attorney said, don't do that, do per call. That's really why
I also think the participation threshold is important. I think, you've got some people who are really participating a lot,
Right.
and others who are not.
That's why that other one would have done the same thing. I mean, both the platforms basically are rewarding the people that show up more than
Yep.
the people that don't. Like, it's just there's pros and cons to both of them, like you said.
correct.
Figure out which way we wanna go. I really don't see the call volume going up that much more, but it has been climbing. I don't know, you know. 160 calls for Sangles, it's a lot of calls. I mean, it shouldn't continue to go up more, but who knows what the future will bring, I don't know. I never would've guessed we'd be at 159, so.
Me neither.
So,
Well, and it doesn't mean that you can't do this model for a year and revisit it.
Yeah, if this doesn't
too.
work, then we can always change it.
You know,
But I
that's
think this is definitely gonna favor,
people who,
it's gonna reward the people who show up,
right, and it may encourage people to show up,
correct?
because that's what,
Which is the other
right,
part of his problem.
right.
No question that the volume has changed I mean, the policy that we're changing today, we had 3 years ago, we didn't have any problem at all. But
Right.
the call volume was so different that we weren't getting to those numbers that we're getting to now.
See, and this year, I worry about that, is with the automatic mutual aid, where's that number gonna go?
Right.
And what's that gonna do to our equipment here? Because even though you're not paying out in labor, you're still beating the hell out of the equipment out here, because it's going so much now. So we're gonna have to, eventually, that's gonna be a bill somewhere.
Now, when you do a lift assist, you take your own personal vehicles, yeah, so that you're not driving any of the,
nope,
right,
just take your personal vehicle right there and head back home afterwards.
right, okay.
It was an interesting Bangor Daily article, the percentage of calls now that are firefighting versus medical,
Yeah.
it's really lopsided.
Subsided.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it's ridiculous.
I mean, it's,
I mean, some places are running just astronomical numbers for that, but, I mean, look at Dover, went from a couple hundred calls a year to 900, 700, 900. But,
Because of the medical side?
well, they're signed up for the medical side, basically, it said,
Oh.
you know, call us on every medical call and we'll go and assist you. It's a lot,
Truck goes every time.
and they're doing it.
every single
A
time.
truck goes every time?
Yes.
Even if it's coming to the medical office.
And they staff the station.
Yeah, I knew that.
Wow, their last year's budget was, I think, 340,
Yeah, 340, 350,000.
Oof.
so, no, they're on a mission. Okay. So, can we say that we're gonna move forward with this?
Can we talk about the training part?
Um,
Mandatory training may be
Oh,
compensated?
Yeah, in other
So-
words, which, the way I take that is, if you go to training, you're gonna get the $10 as long as your participation level is at the 25%. If a person only does training, they're not gonna get paid anything.
I didn't read it that way, that's why I'm asking.
Okay.
oh,
I saw, the way I read it was, it says mandatory training may be compensated, so it
But they don't.
could not.
That's how I took
And
it.
it also says mandatory, because there's only certain, I mean, you have a certain threshold, you're supposed to meet 50% of the trainings for the year, but the only ones that are technically mandatory are your annual,
How many monthly trainings?
Well, how about if you
Yeah,
just
we
say
can
will?
change it,
Just
change it.
will.
so right now, we usually, depending on the time of year, we'll schedule 2 a month, but we don't always do that. In summertime, it might be just 1 a month, because people are busy.
Supposed to have 24 hours a year.
Yeah, each person has to log 24 hours a year, so it ends up, the more we have, we can actually get everybody to meet their threshold. That's why they have to do 50%, because if we do 2 a month,
then that
But now you're back to
equates to
commitment,
their
so, I
2
mean,
year, or 24 hours.
I mean, you're putting up twice as much of your time to allow for people not to show up.
The other thing though is,
I mean, really,
we've found the less trainings, it's halting everybody's growth, so, you know, you're trying to get people to be at the point where, you know, eventually older can retire and new can come up, and if they're not ready, then nobody can go anywhere, you're at a standstill.
So if you just take may and you change it to will, mandatory training will be compensated per training at the current stipend rate based on greater than 25% participation rate.
how long are the training sessions usually? 2 hours?
Yeah, we usually cap them at 2 hours, unless it's a special.
Right. You do hostesses, that's gonna count as training. That's a 6.
It's whole day.
Yeah, it's gonna be a 10-hour, pretty close to it, 8 or 10. It saves the
So if
2,600.
you put one monthly training sessions would be compensated, verbiage it to the 25%.
Okay, wait.
I'm just wondering
No,
about,
what did you say?
and honestly, it's more about his dedicated guys. I see it as his dedicated crew are committing to training the people that come up twice a month, because they only show up 50% of the time. If we go back to one training a month,
Well, what I suspect is gonna happen is you're gonna end up there, because obviously, we want firefighters who are attending calls to be trained, right?
Right.
You have to have that, right? And so anybody who is going to training and also, present on calls more than 25% of the time is gonna get paid not only for calls, but for training.
no, I agree.
If you're attending training, but you don't go to calls, you're not gonna get paid for training.
I agree with that.
And so then you probably are not gonna do training as much if you start not getting paid for it. Cause it's a pretty good investment of time. And if you're not gonna go to calls, you don't need to be trained.
That's the other side of it, for sure. It's just my thing, you're throwing it in there that, are you gonna pay all your senior people are there to help train your lesser guys? Are you gonna pay them 2 trainings a month so that these other ones show up 50% of the time, or you just go to one?
As long as these guys are making 25% of the calls, they get compensated.
That's what I'm saying, but you're gonna keep compensating your guys that are over 25% that aren't going to the training to be trained. They're really going to training to help train the ones that aren't trained.
Right, but my guess is once,
You're doubling the number if you do go to 2 instead of 1, is what I'm saying.
well, if you can get away with one, that's fine.
Well, you need 24 hours per year.
24 hours per year.
Per
I thought the whole, and it probably isn't gonna work today, but I thought the whole reason Sangerville set up 2 trainings was if you couldn't make one, you made the other. Not that you had to be at both, but if it was one or the other. But that was probably back in the day when you had a lot going on, a lot of people showed up for trainings today.
I probably agree with that, but that's for everybody else. But Matt or the officers, you need to have that layer, be it both, to conduct these trainings.
Right, if they all come to one, and you got nobody left to train in the second one,
Exactly.
people show up.
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to
Do
say.
you have a pre-sign up so you have an indication of who's coming? No. See, that seems, Well- I mean, to me, a little bit more organization, and granted, I understand that nailing people down is not an easy thing to do, and it's, what it boils down to is, you know, most of it comes to, our trainings are Sunday. Sometimes guys are at church, family stuff comes up, worked all week, wife wants a day out, whatever, like, and there's just those things that scheduling something like that, you can always try it, but it's never gonna, cause stuff's gonna come up and then, oh, well, she decided we're going to Bangor today, and they're gone. So, it's really just, it's hit or miss.
What's your training look like as far as participation?
You look at it right there on the board. So for example, February, 11/25, 11 was a training day.
The 11th
February
of
11th.
February was a training day, the 25th of February was a training day.
So-
Whoever has a number next to their name was there and participated.
So they came to both, okay, so they got 2 hours, I gotcha.
Yeah, so like it'd be 2 hours for January 14th, 2 hours for February 11th, 2 hours for the 25th.
Oh, so they're getting, for
Those are
example,
the days
let's,
that they attended.
Travis Labrie racked up 4 hours in February then.
He's one of the training officers.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's what I'm saying, is that whole tier is doubling up to offset. I mean, how many did you really have that didn't show up to the first, right? Not very many.
That's where your officer level stipend comes in.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would say, I would
maybe
agree.
that facilitates training. That's
But,
part of your duties,
You know, you look at like,
yeah.
Jeff
Yeah.
wasn't available this one, but he made this one. Orman wasn't available this one, made this one. Jerry wasn't available this one, made this one. So, you know, down through, and then somebody might, you know, Isaac made this one, couldn't make that one.
But if you've got how many of those officers are at those trainings? They're almost all officers.
Yeah.
That's because that's where your participation.
Correct.
You have,
Correct.
now, is it expected that the officers are at each training?
Well, it's not, there's nothing spelled out for them, but it's kind of an unwritten thing that, you know.
Well, it's
if-
their layer of
If
participation.
I have 10 or 15 people there, say, you know, I can't concentrate on showing every single one of them this task. So
Right.
that experienced guys, you each are gonna take a few and we're gonna show you what we gotta do.
So why couldn't training be part of the stipend?
You could look at it that way.
I mean, cause you don't have that many stipend people, so if you're facilitating training, you're an officer. And part of, like you said originally, your stipend is for duties above and beyond.
10 more.
And back again,
Day
it's,
of the month.
okay, now
March
if you're gonna have,
June 10,
March 10.
that's the training.
Yeah.
Sorry.
but again, now you're looking, if that, you're back to looking at that, if you wanna do that, that's okay. But now it's, these are the assigned officers' tasks they're gonna do, and I want them at two trainings a month. So you have to look at those 4 more hours
So,
to figure it out, what's the suitable stipend for them.
Right, is it, I mean, we can do that as well, and maybe add a couple $100 extra to their stipend, and the training is just an expected part of
Correct.
your stipend. I mean, either way,
It's an added duty.
it's an added duty which comes with an added cost.
So you don't get, if you come to all the trainings, but you go to no fire calls, you get nothing.
Correct.
You gotta make at least 25% of the
Correct.
calls. And then whatever you did,
And maybe the flip side of looking at it is, do we need to train you?
yeah,
Because this, like you said, there's expense to this, if you have to show up, do we need to train you? And if you're not gonna make any
never showing up,
calls?
less than 25% if you're just showing up?
So,
that's what this is supposed to be about getting participation.
Correct.
Correct.
Exactly.
weed out the
Well,
For
non,
your time.
also, the
Correct.
non-participation needs to be weeded out.
Yeah.
Then the other thing that you gotta think about too is, it kinda helps a little bit with some things as well, like, you don't need 20 people show up to a lift assist.
100%.
So, but then those people that may not show up to many calls, they're there when I need numbers for a structure fire, you know? So if you weed out too many, you get a little issue as well. Because they may not be here for every little call, but they usually are here for when we really need manpower. Because, yeah, everybody knows a flooded basement doesn't need 12 people, but
Right,
a structure
right.
fire needs everybody you can get.
Fire's got
Plus-
very little constants. It's got a lot
Yeah,
of variables.
yeah, well, this
Compared
whole
to
thing, there's a
constants.
lot of variables, way too many, multivariable firefighting.
The one thing I can say for Sangerville is everybody in the area is having a hard time getting people to do the volunteer per se on-call fire. Because it's a lot of time, a lot of dedication, the regulations are going up, they're spending more time training. We don't have that problem right now, I just don't wanna see us force ourselves into that problem by, you know, the people that they either work out of town, they spend family time, whatever, they don't make a lot of calls, but when there's a structure fire and we need them, they're there.
Yeah, but they're still only there, that timeline that they're in the area.
Right.
You know, so even,
Unfortunately, unless you're like me that works across the bridge, I mean,
Yeah,
there's
I know.
no jobs here, so everybody's leaving for work. That's
but that's why we have mutual aid.
the nature of it.
But at 25%, you had 10. So, and then the mayor dropped, you're at 9 at 33% or 66% of the calls. So I don't think we're gonna run out of money.
I don't either.
Unless, I mean, even at 10%, 15.
Right.
But that's the other side of it is, you just take like right there, that investment alone in that training, and if you're not getting 25% turnout,
That's why I think it's going to, it'll police itself, is what's gonna happen.
it should drive more participation.
Right, I think so.
Correct, or-
I do think
And the
so.
ones that are there are gonna make,
Correct.
Yeah, you know, if you're right at that cusp, then you're gonna make the effort to go to that one more call or training or whatever it may be to qualify. I-
It's amazingly concentrated, you know, in terms of participation.
Yeah, a lot of that ends up being, like you talked about, people that work out of town. It's hard. You get the ones that are here because they work somewhere close by or retired or whatever the case may be, but.
So 25% of 160 would be 40, right?
Yep.
In a year, so 20 and a half year.
Yep. But it's 20%, it's a running 20%, you don't know where you're gonna end the year.
Right.
If you had.
Right, that's true,
Yeah,
yeah.
if you had 10
yeah.
calls the first half of the year and
Yeah.
you were there for 3 of them, then that's 30%.
Yep.
And if you were there for 1 of them, you don't get compensated.
Right.
Looks like we're averaging a couple a week.
Calls.
Roughly, I mean, we're near the end of March, we're at 35 or 6.
160 calls, I mean, that's damn near 3 a week, I mean.
So we can figure on at least 10 a month.
10 a month.
Yep. We're 3 months in, we got 35, I think. So 11, 12 a month.
It's a lot of calls.
What?
It's a lot of calls for
I
a few
know.
people.
I know.
I mean, in terms of participation.
So how many, out of that 160, what's the number for medical, what this is?
30%.
30, that's all? For medical? So that doesn't hold true to what the.
So
The article's in the
holds-
40s.
Yeah.
It holds true for most areas because they have really got on board with the running the medical calls thing. We, because of the situation in Sangerville, have pushed to say unless you absolutely need us.
Explain what you go to, Matt.
So we automatically get toned for cardiac arrest, overdose, unconsciousness, seizures. Other than that, the only time we go is if the ambulance is already on scene and they request us for, can't get him out of the second floor because he's a
Too big.
large man and there's
Right.
2 people and they just can't do it. So that ends up being the only time above those that we go.
And that's anywhere in the mutual aid, or is that just Sangerville?
Just Sangerville.
Just
Just
Sangerville, okay,
Sangerville.
okay.
We don't do
Okay.
any mutual aid for medical.
Okay,
Period.
oh, that's good.
Unless
Oh, I did, okay.
there's some weird, strange
Sure.
circumstance where there was a cardiac arrest in Guilford and nobody showed up. They're gonna call the next closest
Sure.
people to go over.
Okay,
to get.
okay.
But
Okay, so this is
General,
just
this
Sangerville,
is
we're
just
talking
Sangerville.
about lift assist, is just Sangerville, okay.
And he's narrowed it down as much as he can narrow it down.
Sure,
because that whole thing's, the talk of all this, because there's so many calls for assisting the ambulance, I started doing the numbers, and over the last 5 years, it's always been a pretty constant rate, handy to 30%. It's never really climbed. the big difference is we have a lot more calls now, so it seems like a lot of medical calls, but if you break it down by percentage, it's
Yeah,
still
yeah,
30%.
Yeah,
It's,
Yeah.
but, then you got, obviously the towns that are doing that full time, like the Dover and Brownville, and they're set up for that now, and they ask, every time there's a medical call, they get paged with the ambulance, just the way that they
So we-
decided to do it.
Wow.
Do we look at those differently? Because the training aspect is not the same. We're not taking fire department vehicles to those calls, that's all personal vehicles.
So, just personally,
My only thing is we're trying to drive 25% of the call or participation to the fire service, and if you got 30% that's hitting that, you know what I mean? And I'm just talking out loud as we're,
right.
So you're saying you think you're gonna have a lot more people going to the first responders?
it's totally, I think you can find some different people. It's not, none of your out of towners are gonna show up for a first responder call during the day. or
not during the
what this
day,
is.
no, absolutely not.
You know what I mean? And it's not the same level of training, it's not the same level of anything.
I mean,
That number, if that keeps climbing, and we're gonna look at a 25% stipend ratio, you could almost show up at only first responder calls and get you 25%.
You could, but, you're still only talking 10 people.
Just saying.
yeah, I don't foresee that, but
Sorry for my ignorance. First responder is that going to
that's the medical side
medical?
of it.
Okay, sorry. I just
yeah.
wanted, okay, it's not fighting a fire.
Nope.
Okay.
No, that's just, first responder is the term for
Okay.
any medical assistance.
Look, it says
Thank you.
CPR, basically.
I don't think it's quite as busy here as it is in some of the other towns.
No, it's not, and the ambulance actually is really good with us because they know that we don't have a first responder service, so they, like Guilford, if they get a call for somebody with chest pains, they'll start Guilford because they're licensed as a
Yeah,
first responder
okay.
service.
Okay,
They're not gonna call us unless they get there and number one, CPR in progress or whatever, or they need help getting that person out.
right,
So they're really good about it, and that's why our number has stayed where it's at, as
Got it.
opposed to other towns where that is climbing,
Right.
because we didn't go and get licensed as a station to run first responder calls, which is
Right.
basically saying, if you need us, we're here, but otherwise, take care of your job,
right.
so.
And that's what I was gonna ask, because, and I wanted to clarify that first responder, that's what it was. Because when, in your training,
Yep.
how much of your training would you say involves first responder training?
So, we still have to do probably, I would say a little less than a quarter, maybe a quarter, right there handy to it. Because we still have to do, you have to do CPR AED refresher,
Okay,
you have to do stop the bleed, you have to do Narcan administration,
Do we have Narcan?
we do. Doc got it for us. Yeah. Can, it doesn't really matter, I mean. So, but, yeah, so there is really, overall, there's a fair amount of training goes along with it, just because of the fact that it is medical in nature. Obviously, just one guy can't come off the street and grab the AED and go slap it
No,
on somebody and
no,
say,
no.
hang on for the ride. But, so,
okay, well,
my personal opinion would be to, kind of go with what I'm talking about and see how it goes for a year. And if it's wonky and you don't like it, we'll revisit it.
Well, 6 months, see where we are.
Yeah, I'd say, but well, we're a good way into this year. I think you're probably right, Matt, that what you're gonna find out is, it may need to be tweaked. The beauty of the personnel policy is,
it's,
it's
It's
tweakable.
just easy to fix it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
don't
we don't
have,
have
it's
to
not an
go to town
ordinance,
meeting,
you can
yeah,
manage it.
right, it's in our purview.
And it's circumstances change things, because the policy we've had for years, and It just wasn't a big deal, wasn't a problem, and now things have changed and its shortcomings are very apparent, so. So I, basically, you're gonna provide Michelle with a list of officers.
Duties.
Yeah,
Yep.
the amount, we're pretty close on that, but that's gonna be set in a separate meeting, as far as the amount of the stipend. I think, the greater than 25%, we might wanna just to be greater than or equal to.
Okay, yep.
Okay,
Yep, gotcha,
because-
Gotcha,
It just seems like if
Yeah.
a guy hits exactly 25 and now
Yeah.
there's like, well, that wasn't greater.
yeah, that's, yeah.
Okay, so greater than or equal to.
Gotcha, yep, yep. And I mean, a valid thing would be to run this for a couple
Yep.
of months and then side by side, run your model.
Yeah. I mean,
And
we
just, it would be, I think, an interesting,
It will be
Exercise.
easy, yeah, and a dollar here, a dollar there, what does that do 6 months out?
Right, how
You'll
does it
get to see
translate?
that.
Right.
You know, what effect did this have on attendance?
right, right.
Did it help, did it hurt? Is it pushing things in the direction you want it to push? That's, but you'll know after 6 months probably.
So we've already got payroll and things in for
Yep.
January, February, we'll be in March soon. How are we gonna handle that? Is that gonna be lumped into this model, or are we, how?
No, we just, that's a one-off. January, February, March is a one-off.
I think you gotta pay people based on the policy that existed when
At
they
that
were
time,
doing that.
okay.
And that's part of the reason why we wanted this meeting today, so that you can start fresh for April 1st.
Okay,
Pay them off and stuff.
Yeah, everybody's square, Matt's gonna have to explain to everybody the new rules, but, there's really no easy way to make a clean break. I mean, you can't shut your fire department down, so.
Well, I'm hoping you've already communicated with them, with the plan that you had in place, or you was thinking.
I've
It's very simple.
communicated with most, especially the officers,
Yep.
that, you know, we're figuring out how we're going to progress from here. I haven't, you know, verbalized exacts, because until they're done, there's
You're
no
right, nobody
exacts to
knew.
verbalize,
Yeah.
so.
But at the end of the day, they still make a pretty good check if they participate.
There's no
Right,
question,
right,
And that's the number one goal,
no question.
participation.
right. And there's no cap on, you, I mean, obviously the number of calls is gonna cap you
We want
by
to reward
nature of
those
that.
people that are
Right.
doing the work.
But I mean, if you could get 50%, we got 29 guys now.
Well, we got 22 adults and then 5 juniors, so. yeah.
But I mean, at the participation level you have now, you need that many people.
Yeah,
To drive that participation up to
Right.
30, 40%.
it's hard because like a Saturday at 8 p.m. you got everybody,
Right.
you know? But today at, you know, 12:30, it's a completely different story. So just do what we have to make it work.
Let's try it. Because we pay out today, then we're gonna see it anyway.
Okay, does that sound like we're gonna be able to provide you with what
yes.
you need?
Yep.
Okay, and so if you get it, I think it needs to be signed by us. I mean, we're gonna make a motion to adopt this policy today, but I think that it's a signed document, isn't it?
Let's see what you did last time.
The personnel right here, see my,
Oh.
look, the personnel policy is signed.
Yeah, yep,
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we can adopt it and then
Right
we
there.
can all stop by individually and sign it off
Yeah,
tomorrow
see.
or the next day.
yep,
Approved by the Sangerville Select Board regular meeting February 20,
Okay.
2019.
Yep,
So,
so you can put today's date on it
okay,
and we'll sign it when it's done. That
Okay.
seems cool.
so, okay, so, Michelle, did you take enough notes that do you need anything from me, or do you have it, or do you want me to?
if you would shoot this
Okay.
to me,
And then Matt's gonna do his portion.
yep, and then we'll put
Okay.
it together, I'll send it out to you for final
Okay.
approval, and then
Yep.
before you come sign it.
Okay, okay.
And starting April 1st, it'll be following these guidelines.
Perfect.
Okay, so one thing that does need to be changed, so we are gonna do stipend and per call for the chief.
It's the way you want to try
Okay,
it.
for
Yep.
chief and for the officers
Yep.
as well, okay. got that, so, and per call, okay, got it. Okay, so I'll try and get all, I wasn't taking note, but I mean, I know what we're doing here, okay. Okay, and we didn't change the percentage except for an equal, greater than or equal to. Yep.
Yep.
And that's as well for, greater than, okay, gotcha, or equal.
You list those officers out in there, you actually wanna put the stipend right in the personnel policy?
No,
No.
cause then we gotta change the personnel policy if,
Every time you change the amount.
Once a year, if you need to, it's just another signature.
I think, I looked at it as a budget item.
Change.
The stipends?
Yeah,
I don't know, I've been back here from Guilford for 5 years, as long as I can.
that's what I'm saying, they've been this number forever,
I'm
they don't
sure-
get changed.
I'm sure they're probably, I mean, I can't imagine they get changed more than once every 5 to 7 years would be kind of my guess.
My only thought is through the personnel policy, we have a lot of people online who go in there and didn't see it.
Well, this is, I didn't front release for everybody, but the way a lot of towns are doing this, and I like the breakdown, is that's your warrant, okay? So labor
I see what you're saying.
is an article, so they pass 15,000 or 17,000 in labor. And they also list, what did we spend last year? And then you have running the department. And what was the bottom one? Oh, equipment reserve, or,
Emergency management, capital reserve, capital.
yeah. So they break it down, so it's just not one big bucket of money. And so, and I think it gives people a better idea of where that money's actually going.
you could, actually, Dale, if you wouldn't mind passing that around, because I like that model.
That was, just happened to be Burnham.
Oh, no.
That just happens to be Burnham,
Yeah,
but,
just, that's, Pat, yeah, I don't wanna get sick. But I like the way it, cause when you're sitting there, you can see that what was spent for 2 years running, so as you're sitting there. And then also what gets
You're doing the
carried.
same thing now, we list out his budget right in the town report.
Yeah, it doesn't have.
You already have a line item for that.
Expended.
well, no, we
So
don't
it's
break
separate
out,
article.
we don't break labor out separately.
You do if you turn the page.
Don't touch it, don't touch it.
Oh, I don't have the warrant in here, I was gonna say, the town report
Your
right here.
bylaws,
You mean from this last year?
your
I
bylaws,
have that one though.
is
Yeah,
it listed in the bylaws what all the officers' duties are?
I have the new one that we're working on, I have to look.
Well, see, that's what I was thinking, that in the bylaws, and maybe the bylaws would,
Have
they,
your-
We don't have bylaws, we have no ordinance.
but do the firefighters have a bylaws? Does the fire department have bylaws?
There was, but I don't know if they're from before the ordinance took
Oh.
effect or not, I gotta go back and.
Oh.
I mean, it's town department, do they get
Because-
bylaws?
No,
I mean, we have our ordinance.
that's right.
I believe there was bylaws before the ordinance took effect, and then once the ordinance took
Okay.
effect, now we
It's
just,
superseded.
we have SOPs instead.
100%.
There you go,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha.
Already caught it from you.
Okay.
But this is more a warrant issue, and we could
Yep.
structure it however you want, but,
So, oh, next.
anything else on this? No? Nobody knows this, but we secured 5 packs from Corinna. It was actually Rick that did this. Rick was on the budget committee with us. And you guys do their physicals, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and we could have gotten more. We were just the sequence, and you guys know each other, I guess. I've mentioned you. Yep. One of the towns that had said they had an interest in some equipment, I got the impression that they haven't followed up. So he said stay in touch with him because there might be. And he also had equipment that would be good for training, but he said really wasn't acceptable for actual use. If you had a need for that sort of thing, let him know. So.
I appreciate Rick going out and doing that. Those ones are currently the same date as what we're using right now. So I guess we'd have to figure out if it's worth spending the money to have somebody come in and do the inspections on them and all that.
He said
as soon as
everything's,
possible.
everything's fresh.
As soon as they swap hands.
Right, I mean, just they'll
But
pass.
for me, at the end of the day, hang them up. If you don't do that, you've got 5 packs worth of parts.
I don't know if you can use any parts from them unless they've been inspected.
They'd have to do it.
Yeah, they would have to do it.
If IPS came and inspected your packs and they need the hose, they can take, because he can only change certain things, but he could take a hose off and use that part.
And some
So,
of the
Then they
masks,
inspect your pack,
I mean, I'll,
not this pack.
he did say that the masks, some of the masks are brand new, never
Yep.
used. So I don't know, again, I don't know how it all works,
let me
but
call Mary and find out if Emerson sends up the paperwork where IPS tested those specific packs with them serial numbers, if we can
Transfer.
accept
Yeah.
that paperwork and then put them into use, or does she want us to have them retested because they changed hands?
how, what does it cost to test them?
The last time I had them done, the ones in the station was $1,500, I think.
So.
for the entire bunch?
That's about half of that, so probably 7, I would guess would be, because we had 11 of them done, and that's what, 5? So,
5.
yeah, I'm guessing you'd be half of that.
Yeah, I mean, even if we don't, like I said, if you don't go that route, that's a lot of parts.
If we got into replacements, could you do 2 a year, or is that not enough?
What's that?
If we got into buying new packs, could you do 2 a year, or what's your thoughts?
If you could do consistently 2 every year, you probably would be alright. The problem is if you don't get ahead of it before, they continue to age, so you still got 2, or you get 2, these ones are a year older, you get 2 more, you got 4 new ones, but the ones that you've pushed to the back are 29 years old now, and then next year another 30 years old.
I'm just asking
Do you
what
get them all
your-
replaced before those ones are literally just, or not, is the question. I know you and I both talked about the OSHA thing. I see that they're still pushing forward with that, and that'll change a lot. I just don't know. If enough people push back against it, maybe it'll prolong it. I don't know, but OSHA seems to get what they want.
OSHA, read that.
Well,
Yeah.
OSHA is pushing for the adoption of NFPA.
Yeah, it's all political. There's no way that can go through.
And if it does, it does.
Yeah, if it does, it does. If it
Right, I
does,
mean,
we go buy it, I'll bring it back tomorrow.
If we get hit by a meteorite, it's.
But I would
Sorry.
plan for that, I would plan, I look at it as a life cycle, and how long do they last, and how do you utilize the cost and spread it as much as you can, and still do the same thing.
The life cycle always was 20 years, and now, they're trying to move that up to 15, but, we'll see.
One of the concerns I have is we now have 2 petitions that are being presented to us,
Yeah.
the select board, to go on warrant. And so that's $500,000 that we're talking about that are citizen-based petitions that have no bearing on what our budget is and what it costs to run this town. I sat down with, we had you were here for the budget committee. And I sat down after that, and just the numbers that we have absolutely no control over, hydrants, streetlights, school, we all know.
County,
What?
county,
Yeah, county's cool, all of those. But there are other ones that people don't look, like Rick, it was the first time he sat on the budget, he said, hydrants, $41,000, these things. Our solid waste, $130,000, $127,000. And it's $1.5 million that we have before we open the doors and say, let's think about paving a road, is $1.5 million. Then now we have 2 petitions that are out there that is $500,000. So now we're talking $2 million. And where's the money gonna come from?
Everybody. That's why when I brought the options to the budget committee and you guys, I really wanted to look hard into the lease option, because I understand it would be bad as far as all the dates being the same again. But on the other end of it, the money that we are taking out of the payroll end of this, just this year, the savings that we'd have from payroll, if we added another $4,000, that's your yearly payment for those. So we're at 58,000 last year, 62,000 this year. We would have 12 brand new packs, 24 brand new bottles, and we'd be good for over 15 years. And we'd see 4,000 a year over what we had last year. Because of what we took out of payroll, how we saved by doing this stipend process, we went from 28,000 to 15,000. So that's 13 and change right there towards that lease payment. You get another 4,000, you made the lease payment every year for 10 years. That's why I really liked that idea. I understand that the interest rate may leave little to be desired, but ultimately it isn't a huge chunk all at once. You can swallow it, in my eyes.
I think if we needed them, that would be completely different. But Jeff has assured me now like 3 times, we don't need them.
I just
And-
called him again Monday, and there's still wireframes packs out there that don't have integrated pass. As long as you can get parts for them, as long as they pass the yearly inspection, there is nothing out there that says we have to replace those packs. What I'd like to do, and I've indicated Matt, is I'd like to have a plan down the road for him that he can count on that. What are we gonna do going forward?
Well, I think another thing though to really acknowledge is Dr. Cabot just demonstrated that with one phone call, now maybe you're not every day, you're not gonna be able to pull this off, but the amount of time that was spent gathering signatures, if that had been spent maybe reaching out to other communities, building a network of people that, because not everybody got their stuff this year. There's some more stuff coming in 6 months and 8 months.
That was all
But-
done. I reached out to all the departments. Greenville has the exact same packs as those that they just replaced. Charleston, they replaced theirs, and theirs were like 4 years newer, but they're the 4,500 packs. So you'd have to spend 30,000 just to use the old
Right,
packs.
right.
So,
Yeah,
you know, there wasn't any real purpose in bringing that information to anybody, because if you're gonna spend 30,000 to put an old pack in service, why wouldn't you spend 30,000?
Different bottle.
Right, right.
Right,
No,
right.
it doesn't make
That's
sense to
not
go a different
relevant. That's
format.
not relevant.
You gotta stay the same format
Yeah.
of bottle. But,
But it's
I-
really a
I-
philosophical approach.
right. But it concerns me, Matt, that, you know, we sat here at a budget meeting and that you had this, you knew that you had this, and that you didn't discuss it, that it was sort of like, okay, I didn't get what I want.
It wasn't gonna be a threat. I wasn't gonna be like, well, if you guys don't get what I
Well, no, it
want.
would have been a courtesy though.
Yeah.
It would have been a courtesy.
I didn't do that as solely myself. I did that as the voice of the 22 other people that have to put the packs on. And what'd you say in the budget meeting about that air pack? You wouldn't wear it.
That other one,
Yeah, and how do I ask them to?
Well, but that,
see, that one could go and those could replace it, but, I mean, it depends if you're hung up on new or if you wanna keep yours going for a while and we come up with a plan. So, that's your call.
My other thing, I don't know, I obviously have no idea how that petition went, who asked who went where. I was talking to a citizen, last week, the conversation come up and said, well, of course they need them, they're not in compliance. And I go, what do you mean? Well, we were told that their air packs aren't in compliance. And I said, well, that's not true. No, they're not in compliance. And I go, no, that's not true. And then it was, well, that's what did they get written up for by the Department of Labor? And I go, that didn't have anything to do with the air packs.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean? So I don't know who talked to these people, but the impression that I got, whoever went to them to get signatures was asking for signatures and stating things that aren't true, which to me that's, kudos for anybody that wants a petition. But if you're gonna do this, it should be done honestly.
And that's why
And I don't, and again, I don't know who talked to who, but I definitely got the impression that whoever went to this person
Well,
wasn't very upfront and honest.
And I wrote up, a little thing to say at the town meeting before that, and it spells right out in there that there's probably some confusion, that people think that I'm saying that they're out of compliance. And no, that is not true, they are not currently out of compliance. But, even if you get on a format now of buying 2 a year, you may not get them replaced before they are not, is what I'm trying to.
But
But
if-
you're creating a false concern that you don't need to worry about that, we're not there. And we clearly have the money that in 4 years from now, if there's an issue, we can buy backs.
Other than you
You
who
don't need to
collect
worry
the
about
signatures.
today.
What's that?
Other than you who collect the
Can-
signatures.
Excuse me, can we stop for a second? Matt, if you wanna go into executive session with us, we,
That would be your call.
that's your call.
I'm happy to do it right here.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't
No,
mean to-
that's how it works. Who other than you collected signatures?
I collected signatures and my father collected signatures.
That's it?
Mine too, yeah. So,
So, I would suggest that some of the, now obviously a lot of these are firefighters, but not everybody is. I would like to have the town manager call some of these people and see if anybody else was told what your citizen was told. Because I think that's a big deal. This equipment is compliant. The idea that the select board would ignore the safety and health, that's really the implication. If I show up in your dooryard and say, hey, we got fined last week because our packs aren't in compliance, and so we're having to do this to get safety equipment that we need, because the select board won't do it, that's
That's not
just
true.
not a good situation.
but it's also not, you can say that they got the wrong information, or they can twist whatever they want to.
No, they could.
Who's to say?
Well,
that-
that's why you have to,
No,
that, they
The
have to
citizen
ask.
might have made it up. I don't know why they would.
100%. And that's exactly why I worded the way it was.
The
I am
petition-
not pointing fingers.
The petition that was showed to them and talked to them before says right on it, spelled out word for word, to keep the breathing equipment in compliance. It doesn't say to bring it back into compliance, it says to keep.
Right, but
the breathing
it's,
equipment.
even if a person just read this, it would be reasonable to infer that if we don't do this, we will be out of compliance. Now
Petition- It's not my job to make them
Well,
read right, they have
It is.
to.
No, that's a reasonable thing to infer, because if I don't do this, it won't keep us in
Every
compliance.
signature was collected, they were told the situation, the age of them, the fact that they should be replaced, and nothing said that they had to be replaced, nothing said that they weren't in compliance. And everybody said, that I talked to, said, yeah, I mean, if they're 25 years old, we should have a plan, give your signature. And
a plan is one thing, this is a taking of $40,000 from the,
it's the townspeople voting to appropriate it to another part of their town. It's still them using their money how they see fit. If they don't vote it through, then that's their decision.
Well, no, we know that if you have enough people show up, you can pass anything. If you've got a coalition that shows up, you could have a 10-story statue of Donald Trump, and it costs you $1 million. They vote for it, you're gonna have it. But my concern is, if this gets on the warrant based on a false pretense, that's really not, the correct process.
There's no false pretense.
Well, if indeed someone said to the citizen that Dale talked to, that you would admit that's not true,
What's not true?
that we got fined because our packs are not in
Not for
compliance.
finance, no.
So we need to know if that was done repeatedly. Because I think if it was done repeatedly, there might be cause to pull this.
I just wish everybody could work together.
Yeah, me too.
Instead of doing stuff that way.
well, because the next thing is, here we did a budget, and we did say, well, we will buy one Norm. With this down there, then we have to revisit the part, and it pains me to say that, but I mean.
Well, plus
we
you just
have-
picked up 5, I'm not saying cut the budget, but maybe reallocate that 10 to something else, equipment reserve or something,
Yeah,
there's
there
no
you
point
go,
in buying
there you
another
go.
pack.
Right, right.
So,
Equipment reserve.
and you know, the budget committee, I'm sure did not appreciate this approach. They're all working sincerely, volunteering their time. So anyway, it's,
So, you know, the taking of this money in this fashion,
if they both go through, the bucket is dangerously low.
Oh, it's,
Yeah.
and see, that's the thing that I just want you to understand is that you're saying that, you know, that it's their choice where they wanna spend their money, but they're not looking at the big picture. And, I mean, when people sign stuff, actually, you spoke to somebody that said, I sign stuff, but I never go to, I never, you
Yeah,
know. I'm not sign anything. As a matter of fact, Chad Burgess said to me, I'll sign anything that somebody walks up and tells me, you know.
I know people that sign those for the sole reason they appreciate the process.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
has nothing to do with the content,
Exactly.
you know what I mean?
Yep,
They
and-
sign them to
and-
support.
And then they say, let the people decide, which is what happens. But it's important that, you know, our job, we have a really tough job, and it's not easy. And I'm losing sleep over paying our bills, the town's bills.
I'm losing sleep over guys not feeling safe. You're
I don't
not the
understand
only-
But
why
why
somebody
don't
wouldn't
they
feel
feel
safe
safe?
if they're all
They,
certified.
they do, because they're still almost 30 years old.
But they're all certified.
The chief I just spoke with in Corona, he was
Maybe he'd
totally
like-
supportive of
Maybe
packs.
he'd like to be the chief of Sangerville. I mean, possibly.
I don't get it, I really don't. I mean, you can buy a brand new one tomorrow, certify it,
Yeah.
go to put it on the scene, and it break. Have it not walk.
But what's your chances of that compared
No.
to a 27-year-old pack?
They're inspected over and over.
Honestly, in my business right now, I will take my 25-year-old parts any day on anything.
Yeah, when it comes to a pump motor, no, when it comes to breathing apparatus.
It's still what?
Well, this is not productive, so.
No, they're either in compliance or not,
Right.
they're
I mean-
tested regularly, we pay lots of money to make sure this equipment is safe.
Right.
And Corona would be using them tomorrow if they didn't have brandy new ones.
And, you know,
Why'd they
again,
get the brand
Matt,
new
you know.
They got a grant.
Exactly, why'd they apply for a grant?
No different than you did.
Because they needed to
But if
replace
they
the
Yeah,
didn't-
he was successful and you were not.
Right, if they didn't get it,
That's
they'd
all.
still be using it.
Nobody's gonna win this. Nobody's gonna win this.
No.
No, it's just priorities, but,
You had talked about having an informational meeting.
yes.
Did that informational meeting include the fire department, or was that just the other petition with the building?
We'll see what we uncover. But if, as far as I'm concerned, 2 or 3 more people say that, then we're probably gonna have to reach out to the attorney and see what our options are. I mean, you can't just fabricate. I mean, maybe you can, actually. I'm learning that
Yeah.
you can do a lot more than I thought you could do. So,
But it may not be the right word, the totality of the 2 petitions, what it does to the budget of the town, what it leaves left for operating capital, that's where it starts to hurt. Because you're gonna lose all that operating capital in the background, and I hate to see that go back into taxation somehow.
It
to-
will,
Well,
it
well,
has to.
and particularly if you're spending it in a way that doesn't improve your long-term prognosis, right?
Yeah.
If you dump 400 grand into that old theater next door, that's just the beginning of your journey.
Right.
I mean, you're not gonna put a dent in it.
And I respect his opinion, he wants good, new stuff for his department. But can we get by with that stuff for now, that passes, it's all good, till we can come up with a real good, solid plan that he can accept and the board can accept and move forward.
Ironically, if this theater thing goes through, if the old hall goes through, the fire department is in more jeopardy than any other department we have.
That's exactly right.
It's just, cause
Just financially.
it took us 200 years to save this money. So anyway,
Take it all out, you're not generating that
No,
interest anymore, I mean, that's your infrastructure money, gone.
yeah, now every
Consider
time.
if you needed a new truck, right?
Yep, whether it's a truck or paving or repairing the veterans field, now everything's taxation.
Yep, 100%.
Oh, it's an interesting exercise. Anything else? You're gonna reach out to us, we're gonna sign that document. So I make a motion that we accept the language that we talked about regarding the personnel policy and on-call employees.
Okay, second?
Any further?
Nope.
All three in favor?
I have just a couple things that I need to have your signatures on.
Okay,
There's a page in the commitment book, that needs to be signed by the board, where the green
You want
CP
me
is.
to get Emerson on, see if I can take
We
one.
also, as I was doing the 30-day lien notices, realized that we hadn't recommitted from Patrick to Jeff. So this is the recommitment of the taxes left to go from Patrick to Jeff, and then I can do my lien notices.
Okay.
Do you have red labels or white? You red label or white?
Dale signs everything last.
Yeah.
I was just saying.
Well, you only
Yeah,
have
cause we
two.
don't his turn.
Michelle, I'll just put it at the end of the
Sticker.
meeting.
I'm fine.
White is silver.
You don't scare me, I have grandkids. Thank you.
Daycare is,
So, right
That's
here?
the devil.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you go first.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Second,
We are adjourned.
and here, too?